Thank you very much. I want to start with saying that how I appreciate to be here, to be invited. I think it's extremely important. Sorry, I have to take this off because I hear myself. Sorry. Once again, thank you very much for inviting me. And since I'm active diplomat, I will skip the part of saying what Germany should do, but I will try to say what should be done, and everybody can find a kind of place for himself. And so, with this very short, introduction, I will get into my job. I think first. About the picture, how we see the picture, because this is what drives our thinking about what should be done. First and foremost, I think that we all have to understand, and I think we all understand, that Russia is and will remain a threat to the Euro-Atlantic community, and it's in the long run. I mean, we have to remember that. The second part of the picture, Russia's goal is actually to destroy the existing world order based on the rules. It's not about Ukraine anymore. Moscow perceives itself as being at war with us, and this is the war declared by Russia. I mean, it's not us. It's President Putin who says that. It's his people around him who say that. The third element that I really want to underline here, the West tried to cooperate with Russia, the West tried to embrace Russia, the West finally tried to cohabitate with Russia. No success ever. I really want to underline that. We were not successful in this endeavor. Next element, the centuries of autocracy and decades of totalitarianism have left their mark in the Russian society. Recent huge emigration also adds to this, so the indifference of Russian society is very, very important, and we have to have it in mind. Last two pieces of the picture that I wanted to make is that the situation on the war as such. The situation on the front is difficult, and we all know that without our assistance, Ukraine will not win the war, as no other European country would on its own without the assistance of allies. And last but not least, on the picture, Russia looks stable, but as we discussed today, throughout the day, there are many signals that its economy is not in as bad shape as they want to present it. The demography is not on their side. The pivot to the east is going to cause many changes on the labor market. The economy is probably in the mid and long term is going to become less competitive, let's say. And now, what is needed based on this picture as we see it? It's a very simplified picture. I know that, but you have to do it to simplify. We believe that we need to accept few basic kind of principles in our thinking against the backdrop, against the picture that I just drafted. Russia crossed all the red lines that we put together with Russia, actually, all the rules, and I think that we also need to cross certain red lines in our own thinking. I'm not talking about crossing the rules and undermining the rules, but crossing the red lines that we have. We have to stop imposing limits on ourselves. We need to stop being afraid of our own power. We are at war with Russia. I said that before, but we need to embrace this thinking to be ready to fight. Any scenario of frozen conflict or a ceasefire is an artificial scenario. I mean, Russia is not ready for that. Russia is not ready for any negotiations, and Ukraine is also not ready for this. I mean, Ukrainian society will not give up. We need to accept the fact that any ceasefire, any break will be just a break. We have to be aware of this. Next element that we have to embrace in our thinking is that any future security architecture will not be built with Russia. It has to be built against, I mean, in the opposition to Russia. This is the fact, and we have to be ready to accept that. Next principle that I would really advise to accept is we are not obliged to offer anything to Russia. I'm sorry to say that, but we've tried that before. This is why I underlined it very much at the beginning. We are not obliged to offer anything to Russia. Russia has its own resources. There is, they have their own elites. They have to choose what is the path that they want to follow. Yet another thing that is very, very important when we're thinking about our future policy and what we should expect from ourselves. We do not have any common interest with Russia. And I want to again underline that. We've been trying to convince this our Western partners for many years, actually before the war. We do not have any common interest with Russia, with Kremlin. We used to have some converging interests from time to time, but we've never had, I mean, at least for a long time, we did not have this interest and we don't have this interest. We may have some common ground and some common interest with Russian society. And here I want to underline that we do have definitely common interests with the democratic part of the Russian society. Unfortunately, today, most of them, I mean, a lot of them in exile, so it's very, very difficult for them to have any influence. But we do have, with this group, we may have some common interest. And last but not least, if we talk about this, accepting this certain principles in our thinking, we should and we can decouple from Russian economy. And this is also something that we've already tried. We've seen this quite recently, how we were able to do this on the front of the energy sector, let's say. And when we accept this kind of basic, really thinking, basic principles, only accepting this and kind of embracing it, we can think about the really effective strategy towards Russia, and this is very, very important. And when we think, I don't want to take too much of your time, and that I don't know how much, it's kind of few minutes that I still have left, or yeah, one or two.
You're
okay.
already in the red zone.
Okay, okay. So when we talk about strategy, very, very shortly, when we talk about what we need to do, what is needed, we have to have a strategy towards Russia. We have to have a new strategy, and there are two parts of the strategy. One is how to win the war, but the second one, the war on Ukraine, I mean in Ukraine, but the second one is how to win the other war. I mean the war that Russia is fighting with us. So how to win the second war, or sometimes we say how to win peace. We need to win the war, but then we need to win the war. And very, very shortly, we need to really switch in our thinking from deterrence into containment and constraint. I mean, we really need to be ready to do things. We need to invest much more in our own military capabilities. We need to win the war in Ukraine. We need to finally reject the kind of Russia first approach, which really puts all kinds of limitations on ourselves. When we think how to limit, when we set limits on Ukrainians, preventing them from targeting legitimate targeting Russian targets, this is because we are still working in the Russia first paradigm, which we need to really reject. We need to definitely increase our military support to Ukraine, but also increase our own spending for the sake of our own security. We need to continue with sanctions. And again, I really want to underline that sanctions have these two roles. I mean, one is to win the war, as we are discussing, to deprive Russia from the money, but also to prevent Russia to rebuild their military capabilities. And this is as important for Ukraine to win the war as for our own security, because we have to remember that Russia is waging the war against us, that Ukraine is probably just a step before they go farther on, if we let them win this war. We need to be really brave enough to seize Russian assets. We were discussing it today. We know it's a very complex issue legally, but we have to understand what a strategic message we are sending to Russians. And we have to do it. We have to be really brave. We have to also explain somehow to our own societies why we are going to pay for the reconstruction of Ukraine if we are not ready to use Russian money to do it. We need to stick to the principle of the accountability, and I want to really very much underline that. Just two, 3 points. Accountability has to be for all. I mean, justice for all. We have to be ready, really, to keep accountable the so-called troika. I mean, Putin, Shoigu, Lavrov. Those who really made. I mean, those who really made the decision to attack. We need to, and this is, I'm skipping a few of the points, but we need to be really ready that Ukraine, Moldova, and others will have their place in the Euro-Atlantic community. We have to be ready. We have to make the accession process into the EU accession process into the European Union a fact. We are really very close to start negotiations. We have to be really ready to do that. The same with NATO. I mean, it's the only way to ensure security, and you can see it from the picture right now, is to ensure that Ukraine will get to NATO. Lip service is not enough anymore. It will not do the trick.
Malgorzata.
Last point,
yes,
civil society. I really want to say this thing because I said about that we do not have the common interest with the Kremlin, but we do have interest in working with the civil society. Poland has been doing a lot, and I think all of you know that. And I think this is Russia that we should invest in. And I would be very, very cautious in offering anything to the Russian elite. Sorry to say that, because you raised this issue, so I really want to point it out. Russian society, democratic forces, these are our partners and not Kremlin or elites. I have to close here. I'm open to any questions that you may have quite clearly. Sorry.